Well, Kyle,
Yes, Garrett.
is WoW having a comeback?
No? Yes. Yes, but not in the retail way.
No, definitely not retail. It's doing okay. I think retail's fine. Emerald Dream's fun.
I mean, let's get right down to it. I think the main problem with WoW is that they're beating the story drum.
We have decided to give you a glimpse at your next 3 expansion sets.
And their story hasn't been good for a while.
How can this be?
And therefore, it feels like a disconnect. The gameplay's fine, but retail is fast, and classic is almost turn-based slow. And one we have nostalgia for, and one is a constant throw out the baby with the bathwater experiment.
One is very tuned up, and it kind of feels like it's for esports.
Yeah, very much reminds me. And when you get down to it, people like what they like. People like the familiar.
Bound to the iron will of the tyrant Lich King.
People like exploring. People like building upon what they already know. And particular, hardcore and season discovery, just give me that vibe of when Dota, Defense of the Ancients, moves a tree. And all the strategies change around this particular tree and the pathing now that has changed. Like one simple change in something you understand so well is monumental and very interesting. But when everything changes at once, there's no better time to quit.
Now is the time to come home.
No better time to walk away.
Wait, are you saying that when Chris Metzen is up on stage saying now is the best time to come back, it's actually the worst time?
Because you'll be at your most confused. So you can get ready for the part that'll lead you in, which is the war within lead up. But this all gets into deep personal opinion. There are those who love retail. There are those who like classic. I have played classic ad nauseum. It was called vanilla. We didn't call it back then. It was called World of Warcraft. And I played it every single day. But you take my knowledge and you build upon it. You make hardcore. You make season discovery. You make me feel like maybe your devs are having fun. Ooh. Oh.
My. You just put chocolate and peanut butter together.
Exactly. And that organicness, and to me, it's really just like the continent. I think the resetting of expansions is a big ask. What I always wanted was just the doors in Daenerys to open to whatever was beyond there. Organic, living and breathing worlds, not segmented expansions.
I wanted the Cataclysm zones, but in vanilla. Just open up Hyjal. Just open up the Twilight Highlands.
That would be fun. Yes, keep the rest the same.
Just fill those out. You teasing Cool Tiras? We didn't get that until BFA. Just new boat spawns up. Oh my god, where's it going? Is it Cool Tiras? Is it Northrend? Who knows? All of this could have been ushered in throughout a longer, more storied vanilla as opposed to box product expansion, box product expansion, box product expansion. Retail is in its making promises phase. Cut to Chris Metzen again. 3 things. Look at all these box products we have ahead of you. Look at them all. I think it's going to be easy for a lot of folks to see this thumbnail, see this title, and think this is going to be just another takedown of retail World of Warcraft. I don't think it is. I don't think now is a fair time to even really look at retail. It's at the end of an expansion.
Yes, that is true.
Dragonflight is over, basically, in terms of new content. People seem happy with the raid. Race the World First was pretty damn exciting. It was much more exciting than that final raid cinematic, which a lot of people like memeing on. Whatever the case is, retail is, right now, they're focusing on the future. They're making promises, and we can't find out if they're making good on those promises, because War Within isn't playable yet. We don't know. So they're here doing their best to sell us on it. Is it marketing? Yep. Is it also devs that I think might legitimately be proud of what they're making and they want to share it with us and get a site? Also, yep. We just don't know. We don't know if they're going to be able to stick all of these landings, narrative landings, game system landings. They're talking about an overarching narrative. They're making promises about individual expansions and the narratives within. And then they're also making game system promises, which Normally, well, honestly, normally I'm not used to them announcing 3 expansions, but if this was how they normally would do it, I would focus on the fact that they really only announced new game systems for War Within, but then Ian Hazekassis also said they were going to stop throwing game systems out with the bathwater every time there's a new expansion, so you can really look at what they announced for War Within as the game systems that are going to be the game systems for the next untold years of World of Warcraft, because if they're not throwing it out, it means these are also the game systems that are going to be within Midnight and The Last Titan.
Sure, and I guess you can say there's legitimacy to that claim because current World of Warcraft doesn't have a lot of content. Because they had to throw out those systems that were broken and causing the chore-like structure in order to develop things that are fun. So that promise seems real, but of course it's still the gamble of, will you find it fun? Whatever they come up with. Will you feel like it's worth your time?
Exactly. If you're excited about the future of retail, all you can really do is play retail as it currently exists, which is Dragonflight. You can't go scratch that War Within itch because retail is in its promise-making phase. Meanwhile, Classic is in its delivering phase, and it's been in its delivering phase for a little while. It's just that you and me didn't start interfacing with it until like 2 weeks ago. And we find ourselves continuing to interface with it because we're enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, why would I? I have a memory. And I played this game so much. Why would I go back? If something changes, now I'm interested. I can build upon the skills that I have. And I don't think any mode suggests that greater than Season of Discovery. It's literally a mode where you're supposed to notice changes.
You're definitely supposed to notice odd melons.
Odd melons, perfect. The weird rituals, the books, the scrolls, all of this is giving World of Warcraft that sense of discovery, that Thoughtbot-like era that we can't go back to. There's an entire genre, Garrett, of anime dedicated to this very idea. It's huge. There's like one that comes out a day about someone being trapped inside an MMO and using the game skills they previously had to be successful.
I knew you would make this about isekai.
Why wouldn't I? It's literally a dream that many people share.
They're sending the Suicide Squad into an MMO.
Right?
I think it's just fantasy, but it's basically an MMO.
Because we love it. Because we want to escape to these places. I'm gonna be real here. I didn't think we'd still be playing WoW. I thought we'd have like VR headsets, bodysuits.
Just go full on Ready Player One.
I mean, maybe not like the touch suit, but you know what I mean.
No,
like,
we go full on Master Chief because he gets to pee and poop in his suit.
Well, yeah, that's true. You need alerts. I would prefer the lay down in bed version where like your body just stops working and you don't need some sort of like disc to run on and fancy shoes and you're in the back of a van being slammed in the wall.
Either way, we're still playing World of Warcraft.
Yes, we are. But it's an itch, you know? Like so many people have this grindy, vibey, as you call it, itch. And it's a great escape. It's really fun.
I see the whole intrigue in Classic. It's no different to me than the fact that retro games exist as a genre and an interest and a hobby and a sub-hobby within gaming as a whole.
Retro gaming, adult horseback riding lessons, it's all the same thing. You're trying to recapture a moment of your youth with the skills you have as an adult.
Yeah. We are seeing in other fandoms, cars, 90s cars, and the value of them shooting through the roof.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We're getting old. I'm here to remind everybody watching, are you in your mid-30s? Are you now or have you ever before been called an elder millennial? We made it. We're adults now.
I think that was the first time I've heard that. That's awful.
We're older than the parents in Home Alone.
Really?
Which you probably just watched because it's Christmas. You're a creature of nostalgia, just like me.
Oh, weird.
Your nostalgia mileage may vary. You may be more susceptible or more armored up against it than your average person the same age as you. But I think we all have some draw, something in our life that we want to go back to, that we enjoy purely because we enjoyed it once in the past. Vanilla World of Warcraft I look at as one of these many things. I've just bought tickets to a festival literally called When We Were Young that I'm going to next year, dedicated to nothing but Shit, that still lives on my iPod.
It's called a Zune.
But wouldn't it be also nice if we could scratch that nostalgic itch while still having a new experience? Oh, there's a lost stash. That might be what I'm looking for. And to me, that's where we find ourselves. This gets into the big question I have rattling around in my brain, particularly with you, my good friend, who I thought I would never get to play World of Warcraft again. Why is Classic working for some where retail isn't? I like most WoW. I have found something to enjoy in almost every version of World of Warcraft. If I'm allowed, Kyle, could I describe your relationship with World of Warcraft on your behalf?
Yes, please tell me what I like.
I would call you picky as
Oh, well, you know what? Yes, I prefer that greatly to hater, because I'm not a hater.
You're not. I think you get unfairly put in the hater category.
I am a dumpster fire enjoyer, but if you make it too serious, I want you to leave the dumpster fire viewing area.
You're just like me. Trash!
Because you didn't make World of Warcraft content. I've got a lot of public stuff, things I can point to. You can go listen to episodes of The Instance, of the For Azeroth podcast, of the WoW Killer podcast, now defunct projects I used to be a part of, where I would talk about World of Warcraft on the regular. I think a lot of people that only know surface level your history with World of Warcraft think, Kyle, yes, the dude who stopped after Burning Crusade. Which is only somewhat true, because you did stop after Burning Crusade. But you and I both played a decent amount of Legion and Battle for Azeroth together, and I would say we both had a pretty damn good time.
Absolutely. Legion I leveled up through when Battle for Azeroth was on its way, because I was excited to return to Horde is awful, Alliance good but too good, lawful good bad. And I love that. I want to be a war criminal. That won't make the video. I want to be awful. I like the Horde being evil. Apparently, not everybody does. People got really into Thrall's message along the way, which is fine. It balances everybody out. That's what the Horde is about. Balance. And Alliance are nothing but crazy killing machines for the good. I like that. I like that world.
Probably my second favorite thing I've ever done in World of Warcraft was clear the Karazhan mega dungeon with you in Legion.
And that's really what it also comes down to, is I love co-op content. And even better if the co-op content has a thing you can do on your own, and you bring those candles, those fish sticks that you farmed along the way to Gruul's lair. And then together, you take advantage of the time you spent apart. So different from speccing, writing a backstory, creating your D&D character. It all really speaks to me. And I think Legion was the first one that actually did its story well. It was individual. It was isolated. And you just wanted to experience it organically. Whereas so often in WoW, I want questy or to Google something because executing this particular maneuver is frustrating or obtuse. And you can never put the genie back in the bottle. I'm aware of that. You can't go back to the discovery of World of Warcraft. There are those today who are wanting spoiler protections for Season of Discovery, the thing they didn't have a PTR for, so they could have that moment of actual organic adventuring. And I think Season of Discovery is okay. Honestly, hardcore is just the height of my game knowledge in vanilla WoW being executed upon in a co-op environment, and that feels fun.
You mentioned Legion, and I think Legion is the height of retail execution. It's close enough to current retail that I think the kind of speed at which the game was played is pretty much the same. I don't think World of Warcraft has really sped up its gameplay much since World of Warcraft Legion. But there was something about the way that the story was executed upon that put it up over the top for me. Because I like playing WoW, even the more modern, very fast-paced one. But there's something about Classic, there's something about that vanilla experience and the methodical pace in which it's played that I think I like a little bit more. Is it intently intuitive? No, I don't think it is at all. But I think that's also part of the reason I prefer playing it. In what I lovingly refer to as jank, in its jank, I find a lot of charm. So all of these things that have been smoothed out, been optimized, I kind of prefer the inefficient versions. I love stutter stepping on my hunter. I really am uninterested in playing a retail hunter, whereas it was my favorite class up through about Wrath of the Lich King.
You're describing the exact same thing as using a lower level spell or wanding tactically to save mana. Things that from the outside are extremely unsexy. But in the game as it functions, worked.
There are a lot of places for you, the player, to optimize because of how many ways there are to play suboptimally in vanilla World of Warcraft. Can you be suboptimal in retail? Absolutely. But there's not as many caveats. There's not as many places for incremental self-improvement. And I find that very attractive in a game with tab targeting. And on top of all of this, leveling is just a massive part of vanilla World of Warcraft. It was still a pretty big part in Burning Crusade, and it still took a decent amount of time to hit max, especially if you start with level 1 in Wrath of the Lich King, but it got more smoothed out. It felt like leveling was a waiting room for endgame. Whereas in vanilla, while there is an endgame, I still feel like the majority of the game is getting to max. And you slap hardcore on top of that, congratulations, leveling is officially the game. I know you can go raid in hardcore World of Warcraft. I can't even think about that. I can't plan for that because I might be dead. I might lose my character.
I hate leveling in expansions. It is the biggest chore between here and there. I like leveling in Classic WoW because you're experiencing the world, and in the past, maybe not so much today, you were growing a community. You were meeting people. You were choosing your guild. Those adventures along the way with your old friends list was valuable. And if you got all the way to 60 and you wanted something else in your repertoire, you wanted to paint another mini, you had to start at the beginning. You had to put that sucker together out of the box and get your little clippers out. It's the perfect analogy, really, because in Warhammer, if there's ever a tie, the person who wins is the one who painted their minis.
Is that true?
That's what Classic WoW feels like. Retail feels like a bunch of unpainted minis throwing around. Maybe you boosted, maybe you just got your talents off some website. There's no personality there, in my opinion. But Classic is full of terrible boots you can't wait to get rid of and spirit loincloths from the Wailing Caverns.
Kyle was impressed with my level 15 alt in hardcore because he's like, oh my God, dude, you survived long enough to make us bags on a tailor. Thank you.
Exactly. Like that interwoven nature of it is just so fascinating to me, but always comes back to this basis of knowledge that I'm executing upon. If I hate leveling, I love dungeons. It is my preferred way to level. Eventually, I became a priest because I was so frustrated with putting those groups together and finding no healers that I took on that role myself.
That's why I started tanking.
And hardcore makes the whole world a dungeon. And you organically want to group up because things are dangerous. You respect the game back. And in the past, we only had one screen, or at least I did. I didn't know any kids who had two screens to watch a movie in the background. The computers were always up in some parental office deep in the house. And I want WoW to take all my attention. I don't want to zone out. I don't like watching a movie. So difficulty, execution, environment, all these things matter a lot to me.
Yeah. When I sat down to think about this, when I knew we were going to have a chat, like I also thought about things that I think we share, like reasons we both are enjoying Classic. And I think a big one is Classic just doesn't hold your hand as much. You know, retail has adopted main quest guidance, which is really similar to Final Fantasy XIV. You can skip all the side quests and just stick to the icon that you know will advance the story and get you through to the end, to whatever's unlocked for endgame on the current expansion. Whereas you go and play Classic, you can even have a quest tracker. You can be using a quest tracker add-on, but some quests are just nowhere near each other. Sometimes you got to piecemeal it, and you got to like min-max that 60-minute timer on your Hearthstone to just speed it up a tiny bit more.
That's where I'm an old man. That's where I want the faster horse, right? I loved the quest for the Wailing Caverns that would have you beat the first boss and then it was over. And you had to go back with a different quest for the second boss and the third boss. Did any group ever say, hold up, everybody. Let's go outside and turn in the quest. No, you did the whole dungeon with that group and it was over. But you got to run it 3 times.
Yeah.
That was way more valuable to me. I despise, I'm going to use strong language here. I despise auto-updating quests. Why are you ruining my content? That was good content that I was going to have to go back and forth for. And now what, I'm getting a call from Sylvanas? Are you serious? It works well in modern WoW. And absolutely, am I running Questy in Classic? Yeah, I'm not insane. I value my time.
But that back and forth too, it sounds suboptimal, and it is, but it's optimal for the game the way it was played back in vanilla, because they've streamlined gear acquisition, they've streamlined XP acquisition, and they've streamlined professions, which requires grinding materials. Again, none of this is a takedown. I don't mind the way it is in retail, but having to go back and forth and constantly retread the same area over and over again, and even in your example, the same dungeon over and over again, that helps you get XP, that helps you farm materials because you're just going back and forth if you're doing professions, and it helps you get gear because you just did the dungeon more than one time.
It all flows into each other. The abilities costing money means you're not buying that bag off the auction house, so you're making a tactical choice. It feels alive when you're thinking about every copper.
And again, as someone who really enjoys those micro victories, that micro optimization of getting better at my own character, I love doing dungeons over and over again because I got better at those dungeons. I love that in Final Fantasy XIV, I can go and grab all of the jobs. That's really fun. You know what else is really fun? Having such a barrier of entry of having a max level class in World of Warcraft that I put a lot of thought and personal investment into choosing what I'm going to play. I absolutely love both. Both of those are a way to do class design in an MMO like this, and they're both wonderful, and I find enjoyment in both ways.
There's a reason why it's become so difficult to make Final Fantasy XIV versus WoW videos around here, because they're such different games. We can isolate things and say, whose story is better? Okay.
That's an easy one. That's a
Not
really
an interesting
easy
conversation to have.
What one would I rather do menial tasks for leveling up in? Absolutely World of Warcraft. I still haven't gotten over the load between zones. Getting back into World of Warcraft, I'm like, holy shit. I forgot how wonderful it is to just adventure without a loading screen. And the fact that this came out in 2005. Sorry, I'm getting off the topic here. We should probably actually do an updated WoW versus Final Fantasy XIV video.
Maybe, yeah. Like real structured, like everything in little boxes, because it have to be.
Also, like, I want to say I noticed, which is so disingenuous. Everyone's noticed there's been countless amount of think pieces written about the fact that less guidance in games has become a popular subcurrent in recent years. It was something that Breath of the Wild was endlessly praised for. Elden Ring was the darling during the pandemic, and FromSoft fans are like, yeah, what are you talking about? This is just how our games are. But the rest of us, who it was our first time playing one of those games, were like, oh my God, I'm just dropped into this world and I get to figure it out.
It was cute at first, right? Oh, a scroll from Deckard Cain. Oh, it's nice to hear you as I'm walking along. It became, shut up. Oh my God, shut up. Why are people calling me? Shut up.
I feel like literally the only person in the world who doesn't like the new Zelda games. I grew up with Zelda. I didn't particularly enjoy Breath of the Wild, and I haven't even touched whatever the new one is called.
Phenomenal game.
Send your comments. I don't care. I want my 8 dungeons in a Ganon fight.
What you're describing is the I want turn-based Final Fantasy, go play Octopath Traveler. The thing is, I can say, well, why don't you go play Vanilla WoW? And you can say, okay, I will.
I am. I'm thinking about it. This is the most I've ever actually wanted to recommend to someone who has never played Vanilla World of Warcraft to go play Classic. I didn't think I would recommend it to someone when Classic was releasing back in, 2019? But now I actually think there are people I would recommend it to that have never touched it, which is bonkers to me because I always looked at it as a product of nostalgia, and that if you didn't possess that nostalgia, it wouldn't be successful for you. But now I think it would be. I think if you're vaguely amenable to the idea of a tab targeting MMO and you enjoy the less on rails experiences of games like modern Zelda and Elden Ring, actually I think Vanilla World of Warcraft might be your jam.
I'm having the same experience with Season of Discovery. I'm hearing from so many non-World of Warcraft players that has interested them. And maybe it's the organicness of the world. Maybe it's the low level cap. It seems odd to me from the outside with all my nostalgia and game knowledge that this part of it would be interesting to you. But what I'm really, really hopeful for is the future of MMOs. And I don't mean like the cheesy, like WoW's gonna fix itself or anything like that. Faith is at minimum level for the upcoming 3 expansions. Why would it be high? But all those MMO projects that are secret, hinting, on the horizon. Like Final Fantasy 14 took a snapshot of Wrath of the Lich King systems. I really hope the future is full of things looking at this very moment. Seeing something like a game coming out with a 25 level cap to be expanded month after month. How interesting. How much content when you don't just dump it all in one pile. What if we go back to a more one world kind of feel? What if the expansion cycle as we know it, and I'm sure it makes a lot of money, becomes broken? And we stop isolating and fracturing our players into these different cities and having empty worlds. Final Fantasy XIV found a decent workaround with that.
I find the idea of a classic player base and a retail player base and the divide between them endlessly fascinating. Like I would love to be a fly on the wall at Blizzard HQ for the folks that are having to decide whether that's even a problem. Maybe it's fine. And I look at it now from the outside looking in, I think they have decided it's fine. Because retail is still very much retail. They're making some good changes. And they said that they have learned lessons from World of Warcraft Classic, but retail still looks absolutely nothing like vanilla World of Warcraft. And it doesn't look like it's heading in that direction with the World Soul Saga and the systems that they explained in there. And that isn't me saying that it's bad. Warbands sounds wonderful. I've always been an Altaholic. I wouldn't mind if whatever the next Season of Discovery thing is has warbands, because I love having alts. Throw warbands in my vanilla, please. I'm all for it. But do they even need to merge it all? I don't think they need to. I think you have classic players. I think you have retail players, and I'm sure that they have a number that they are very aware of internally of the people that play both.
And supposedly the rumor is that there are more classic players than there are retail players, that is propping up, which is why we're seeing something like Season Discovery. And Season Discovery is so interesting to me because what I want is developers having fun, because that means fun for me. And what I see in Season Discovery is just fun being had with the assets already in existence. Much like old BattleNet, we can drop spells from the future of WoW into Classic. We can bring in a model, for instance, some cool boss they designed in Pandaria, and put that as a world boss in Classic. And when your developers are having organic fun in a functioning work environment, we're all gonna have fun. Simple as that. When you're not fighting with the code, how many games have we heard about the spaghetti and how hard it is to do anything inside them? We feel that on the outside. We know that vibe.
Yeah, and there's something about Season of Discovery, at least in this first week, that feels effortless.
We found a frozen Murloc who need to be thawed out by enough fire at the same time, so we had to stack our fire spells to get in there.
Yeah, very simple when you describe it like that, but in the moment, it was a lot of fun of realizing through the game mechanics of, oh, we both cast a fire spell and now it says 2. It stacks. We must have to keep applying until it melts and then we can get the thing that's on the inside. And also my brain went, are we going to have to fight the Murloc? And is the Murloc going to be an absolute bastard? Nope. Total fake out. It was already dead. It drops as a corpse, which was also fun. But just in that moment, I had a little, reminded me of playing World of Warcraft for the first time and where I left my gaming session with a story that I went and told. I did that. I was like, Katie, because we used to play vanilla World of Warcraft together. I'm like, we found a frozen Murloc on the side of the lake, in the Undercity starting zone. Yeah, you remember that time we rolled undead? Yeah, I went out there and there's just like a dead Murloc encased in ice, and we had to figure out how to break it out. And then we both got unique abilities that we never had in vanilla World of Warcraft. In reality, what was it? A 5-minute experience for us? But it stuck with me. Maybe I am just getting old, Kyle. But I feel like a lot of the speculative conversation that I see around the subject of season discovery and just classic World of Warcraft as a whole is, yeah, but can it keep delivering? Is it something that I'm gonna want to keep playing for years to come? I think I may have reached a point where I'm like, I don't need it to. I can enjoy it just right now. I can enjoy it until I'm not enjoying it and have had fun with the experience and happily move on and get back up to some other games that I'm playing.
And I think it can be remixed forever. It's up to you, the audience, to control yourself and make sure you don't burn out.
I mean, I think that's true of like any game as a service. To me right now, and it's a little unfair because there's a lot of scrutiny, but I do think an example of making it where it's not as much on the audience is something like Destiny, where they've just removed and pruned so much of their own content that there just legitimately isn't that much there to do. And that's also somewhat true of retail World of Warcraft that has consistently made their old content irrelevant. And there's just no point to go back and do it. They don't have that problem with Classic. Everything is to some degree relevant. It may not be as relevant once you overlevel it, but there at least was a point in your journey where it would have been worth your time to go and do it.
And with Season of Discovery, you have this sign-up moment. You invest, and if they carry this all the way to 60, maybe even beyond, that will be exciting for those people who want to join at that time and play, much like signing up for a D&D campaign. It will not last forever. But that's the point. You're going to enjoy this journey, and hopefully they do it again, Season of Discovery 2. And you have another sign-up point with new discoveries to be made along the way.
My mental paralysis is I'm interested in all of it. I'm interested in the idea of doing almost multiversal new expansions for vanilla that like don't go in order. Don't just go to Burning Crusade. Just come up with some new expansion we never got, but that keeps things more in that vanilla style. I'm interested in Season of Discovery getting access to things like Outland and Northrend. But again, I want it to still feel vanilla and not get step too close to retail. I'm interested in all of it. So in a way, I think I'm with you. I think it is kind of endlessly remixable. But I hope they go further than just Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor.
I can't help but think of the SpongeBob meme where he keeps like sweeping and dancing and everyone's booing, and then he starts making burgers and the fish guy goes, "That's what we wanted this whole time."